Hey YouTube. Um, it's about 6:30 a.m. right now and I haven't slept yet. So pardon me if I ramble on or seem a bit tired. Um, Most of my videos on here have been, video editing, um, music videos, movie trailers, things like that. I have a few theist versus atheist things that are a little deeper, but this is going to be my first activism video. And the reason I'm doing this, and the reason I'm doing it so spontaneously this early in the morning, is last night I was watching a show, and they mentioned Proposition 8, which is, for those of you who don't know, California's Proposition 8 was on the last, during the last election. It was a proposed law that rewrote the California Constitution so that only marriage between a man and a woman is legal. Therefore, same-sex marriages are not recognized, and that actually passed. And that's ridiculous. But same thing happened here in Florida. We had a similar proposition that passed as well, such that gay marriage is illegal here as well. It's ridiculous, but I want to clarify a few things. First of all, a lot of people, supporters of Proposition 8 and, people who go against gay marriage say that gay couples have civil unions or domestic partnerships, which are separate but equal. Now, I would have hoped that, Brown versus the Board of Education would have stuck around in people's minds longer than, 30 years it's been? 40 years? Unfortunately, it hasn't, but if I may remind you, Brown versus the Board of Education was, I think it's the 60s or 70s. Let me look this up real quick. Brown versus Board of Education. It was 1954, I'm sorry. So it's actually the 50s. So, 60 years later, it's only almost 60, not even 60 years later, and we've forgotten all about it. It was originally, back in the 50s and before, they had separate schools for black people and white people. And they were, just as marriage and civil unions are considered now, separate but equal. They had books, they had running water, they had everything, and it was supposedly equal. The difference was that in the white schools, everything was perfectly fine, kept up to date, kept sanitary. In the black schools, the books they got were tattered, the water they got was not clean, if the water fountains worked at all. The black schools themselves were miles out of the way of residential neighborhoods, whereas the white schools were right next to the houses. Excuse me. And the schools themselves, the black schools, were horribly underfunded by the government compared to the white schools, which had as much funding as they needed. So they were separate but equal, but really they weren't equal. Now the same thing is going on with civil unions and domestic partnerships. Now, I haven't done all the research necessary to find every difference, and if I did, that would be a video that went on for 20-30 minutes. But there are a lot of benefits to marriage that civil civil unions and domestic partnerships don't have. Let me find a list here, or I found a list. I'm going to read some. Let me see. California permits married couples the option of confidential marriage, whereas domestic partnerships do not have this option. In confidential marriages, no witnesses are required and the marriage license is not public record. So what this means is, if you get married, you're allowed to get married in private and not have anyone know, You don't need witnesses there. You don't even need your marriage license to be on public record, so you can keep it anonymous. If you're a gay couple and you want a domestic partnership, there has to be a witness, and your partnership registration has to be on public record. It's almost like if you're a same-sex couple, if someone has to watch you and make sure that you're getting a partnership. I don't know. It just seems like an invasion of privacy, and seems unfair that opposite-sex couples can get married in private, but same-sex couples have to have a witness and public record. Another thing is married partners of state employees are eligible for the California Retirement Long-Term Care Insurance Plan. Domestic partners are not. So retirement benefits are out the window. When you can get them from marriage, you can't get them from domestic partnership. I know personally, I'm not going to use names. We'll just call the couple Adam and Steve, just to kind of throw some irony in there. But just one couple, Adam and Steve. Adam has a debilitating disease, a progressive disease, that is making it slowly harder and harder for him to walk. Now, Adam is a part-time employee, while Steve is a full-time employee. They have a domestic partnership, and Steve, through his employer, has health insurance. If they were married, Steve would be allowed to put Adam on his health insurance, and they'd be able to get the medical care that Adam needs. Because they have a domestic partnership and they can't actually get married, he's not allowed to put Adam on his health insurance, and so he's having trouble finding the health care that he needs. Which is ridiculous, that just because they're the same sex, they can't get the same health insurance benefits. That's ridiculous. And there's plenty more. Like I said, I didn't do the research and find all the differences, but I know there's definitely more than that. Even if there wasn't, one right removed because of who you fall in love with is one right too many. And wow, I'm going over 7 minutes here. I'm going to try to keep this short. But people call themselves patriotic, and then they go out and do this kind of stuff and vote yes on Prop 8 and things like that. But you forget our founding fathers, not even our founding fathers, before them, our ancestors first came to America, the Puritans, because in England they were being persecuted. Their religion was being put down. Other people were forcing their beliefs upon them, and they couldn't take it, so they came to America to find freedom. Now it's 300 years later, and what are we doing? We're voting on laws to force our beliefs upon other people. Completely goes against what our founding fathers, what our ancestors came here for in the first place. But we do it and then call ourselves patriotic. It's ridiculous. The point is that gay marriage hurts no one. All the people who voted no on gay marriage, think about it. And I don't mean just close this video and, go on with your life the same way you always have. Actually take a couple of minutes and think about it. If gay marriage were legalized, how would it hurt you? How would it affect your life in any way? Legalizing gay marriage doesn't suddenly mean you have to be gay. It just means that people who are gay can have the same benefits as people who are straight. And since we're all humans and nobody can choose who they fall in love with, it's ridiculous to deny them that basic right. And if you don't think that you can't choose who you fall in love with, then think about the first time you had your heart broken and tell me if you chose to be in love with the person who broke your heart. It's almost 10 minutes now, so I'm going to sign off, but I hope I've at least gotten some people to think about it a little more than they did before. Maybe I've changed some minds. Apparently in 2010 there's going to be a revote on that, so anyone who lives in California who's watching this right now, think about this, and in 2010, make the right choice. Vote for humanity and not for intolerance.